That moment when you're doing a video and you're halfway through it, you're getting into a point and someone calls. Oh! And you have to answer with a smile on your face and say, "Hi, how are you doing? I'm so happy you called." Yes, that just happened to me. I didn't like it, in case you're wondering. All right, this is Brandon Renus giving you a holler. I am going to go over my first response to someone who attacked me today on a couple topics. Before I get into it, I want to say that I recommend for everyone, and this is kind of the debate we had, or this is part of the debate we had, and this is what made me think about it all. I want to recommend to everyone that if you're a Republican, start focusing on picking 5 or 10 Republican or Democrat pages that you don't like. If you're a Democrat, pick 5 or 10 Republican pages. Libertarian, pick anarchist pages, socialist pages, communist pages. First of all, it will help you come up with better beliefs. If you actually truly believe in the philosophies you believe in, you'll be comparing them to people that truly disagree with them. So you'll have a better idea of where you actually stand and what you truly believe in. Second of all, when you attack people with arguments, you'll be far more educated because you will know what their counters will be, or you can actually point out your statements and debunk their responses in your actual comment before they can respond. I got attacked today by a guy on topics I hadn't even talked about. In just his response and the way he attacked me, I was like, dude, it was so obvious that he has done absolutely no research on the subject he's talking about. And this is super common. I consider myself a independent libertarian, or a libertarian independent probably would be the better accurate way to put it. But I think a lot of us don't really want to be put in any one category. So let's educate ourselves, let's listen, let's learn. I was attacked today by a gentleman. Oh, by the way, before I get into that, as a libertarian independent, I have 5 to 10 pages that are Republican, 5 to 10 pages that are Democrat, probably about 5 socialist pages, and I have one page that's called Libertarian or Americans Against Libertarians or something like that, like completely against everything I stand for. This is the beauty of it, guys. If you actually believe in things, have dialogue or at least educate yourself. Hey, this is what the page is saying that doesn't agree with me, and you'll learn things that you need to question. Hey, maybe I am a hypocrite. Maybe I can work on this. Anytime you're spending just your energy and your time and your focus on your side as a Republican or any other group, I don't even care if it's blacks or Asians or mathematicians, whatever it is, if you're just focusing on your one group and you're only listening to positive stuff, that's called brainwashing. It's not called education. Don't brainwash yourself, people. I don't care what side you're on. It's not right. It's not education. Anyway, let's get on to the rampage. So this gentleman, who will go nameless, he attacked me and called me a libertarian, which, granted, I definitely lean that way and consider myself a libertarian on a lot of things, so fair enough. Then he attacks me on issues I haven't even brought up and tells me I am a moron. So his opening statement, in case you're wondering, guys, don't use language in your responses to people. When you're doing that, you're pretty much losing the debate. I always say the first person to throw the language out at somebody, you're the loser. Because it doesn't take any brains or common sense to attack somebody using language. When you actually beat somebody or succeed at changing their perspective in a logical debate, you're going to actually have to use logic. When you're using name calling, all you're doing is digging their line deeper that they're not going to cross to listen to you. This name calling back and forth, all you're doing is saying, I care about ramming my ideas down your throat. I don't care about actually helping each other. And the reality is, most of us want what's better for the country. Whether you're on one side of the aisle or the other, we all still want what we think is best for the country, and that we may disagree. But by attacking people like that, you're not helping unite us. And that is what my page is about, is helping unite us no matter what side you're on, just with basic common sense, educating ourselves, promoting learning. All right, so now we'll go back to the gentleman. So he attacks me for being a libertarian. His opening line is, "Hey, moron, obviously you're an idiot. You can't come up with your beliefs," or whatever. This is paraphrasing now. "And be consistent. You're an evil person and you're a moron." You use moron twice. Obviously, this is a highly educated person. I was super worried about his response. He then attacks me on 3 topics that I have not even mentioned or discussed in the debate. But they're great topics, so we're going to go over them today. The first one, he says, "Libertarians, those evil people, they believe in deregulation, and deregulation means unrestrained pollution. Such horrible scumbags." Yeah. Well, I want to start by thinking about the richest person in the history of the world. Now, it's arguable. John D. Rockefeller was one of the richest people in the history of the world. Okay? This is before government was involved in pollution. This is before the government was involved in policing the economy. Yeah, before they were printing insane amounts of money, before you could get in bed with government. I shouldn't say before, but there's very limited amounts of corporations that were able to get in bed with government. So you actually had to beat people in the marketplace. John D. Rockefeller got into the oil industry, and he started thinking about things, and he started looking at his competition, and he realized, hey, there's a ton of money in this industry. This is awesome. And he started trying to learn about how to make things more efficient. Well, because there was so much money in the industry, more and more businesses decided to start getting involved in making oil because, hey, they want to make the money also. This drove prices down, so the consumer was doing better. Still lots of pollution going on, though. The guys are just throwing the pollution in the rivers and the lakes and the cities, wherever they can find it. It's piles. It's disgusting. And John D. Rockefeller was constantly looking for more efficient ways to do things. There's one story about how they would haul oil in containers and that they would drop, I don't even know what to... they would be using like a welder or whatever, and they would drop these steel welds on each spot on the lid, and they would use, let's say, 27 of them. And he came up to the guy putting these lids on, and he asked him, "Dude, why do you use 27 drops?" And the man said, "Because that's what we do, and that's what works." And he says, "All right, I want you to try 23. The guy tried 23, and after they were experimenting with them and trying them out and testing them out, they found out that a few of the 100 that they did, or whatever the actual number is, you can go back and look up the story, leaked. John D. Rockefeller said, "That won't work. We can't handle that. Try 24. So he was such a perfectionist that he wanted to go and save money to the smallest, tiniest detail. This comes into play. Since all these people want to make all this money, the competition gets stiff, driving prices down. Now these guys aren't making as much money, and they start going bankrupt. John D. Rockefeller is the most efficient person at making oil out there, and he isn't stopping. He's only becoming more efficient. So as these guys are dropping out because they can't afford the prices, John D. Rockefeller is buying them up and helping them use the same efficient processes that he does, and he's constantly expanding and making himself more efficient. He looks at all the waste that they have when they're making an oil, and he says, how can I use this? This can't be getting thrown in lakes and rivers. I gotta use this. I gotta make more money from it, because he's an evil corporate capitalist douchebag. Yeah. So he finds ways to use this waste and make even more money, makes candles, makes scents, and all kinds of other things. Over 300 products out of the waste. His competition is throwing waste outside in rivers and lakes, wherever. He's using it to make more products to sell. And now his product is even cheaper. This is a man that is the first real Greenpeace dude. He is the first person that is actually truly worried about protecting the environment. He is the actual environmentalist, and he is incredibly wealthy, because that is what a free market does. It forces you to become more efficient, and better with your products and forces you to make the most quality with the cheapest prices with the best goods possible. Because if you don't, your competition will do it and you will be out of business. John D. Rockefeller, because he was so efficient, because he was so good, he ended up with a 90% share in the United States marketplace and a 70% world share selling oil. Didn't do anything wrong, just sold prices or sold oil at lower prices every single year. They never went up while he was in business. It only went down. People who could never afford to have lights in their house now have lights in their house. How cool is that? He was the original environmentalist, but nobody talks about him. Because if a government official can't have control of the situation, it's hard to buy votes. Yeah. Let's also look at this from another perspective. If you're worried about the environment, why are you worried about pollution laws and how much you can pollute and all this stuff? I have a simple solution. Let's have our government protect private property. If I, on my private property, cannot pollute you on your private property because you are protected and I am protected, it's going to be very difficult for me to pollute. That's what we should be worried about. Not telling these businesses what they can do and what they can't do and how they can do and how they can't do things. But that they cannot pollute someone else's property. They cannot affect someone else's life. That should be our priority. So let's go down the list. He also attacks me on discrimination. Libertarians, or whatever, I think he just called me. He's like, you believe that our government shouldn't be involved in discrimination. This means that all businesses can discriminate and it will be all over the place. It will be unrestrained discrimination. That's his words. Unrestrained. Whoa! Such horrible, evil people. That kind of reminds me of what's going on right now, isn't it? Horrible. There's discrimination going on right now. There's racism going on right now. I actually was on the corner yesterday and some lady called a black lady the N-word. Horrible. It's funny. You'd think with all these rules and regulations that that'd be going away. Actually, I think the free market has a beautiful option for this, and I think it's the only answer to this. So, rules and regulations, they divide us. When you tell me that I can't do something that I believe I should be able to do, I get mad at you. And same thing, I'm sure, if I tell you to do something that you don't believe in. If you tell me I can't smoke weed and I smoke weed, I'm not going to like you. I don't like you trying to control my life. And the same thing goes for blacks or anything else. But let's go and put this in the marketplace again. Let's actually force people, or let's actually see what happens when people are racist in a marketplace. So I am the evil business owner who hates black people. I won't sell to black people because they're scumbags. I won't hire black people because I'm an evil white person that hates black people, okay? You are a good person. You run a business and you'll hire anybody and you'll fire anybody that's, wrong or bad, and you'll sell to anybody. Well, now we're in the marketplace and all of a sudden I, the evil person, have a huge disadvantage. I have less people to choose from when I'm hiring people. I can't hire anybody unless they're white. So now I can't hire all the best employees. So you have an advantage on me for the people you're hiring. You also have an advantage on who you're selling to. So now me, as an evil, horrible, racist person, I am struggling to stay in business and compete with you. Also, you have the opportunity of helping yourself use advertising and protesting and can't think of the other word, but using, waving signs in front of my store saying, this guy's a racist, he won't hire black people, he won't sell to black people, blah, 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 blah. And if other people believe you and they recognize and they go into my store, the evil racist, and they recognize I don't hire black people and I don't sell to black people, I'm going to lose their business. This naturally, without anybody forcing anything, turns me, the evil racist, into a much more caring person, because all of a sudden, without any force, I'm recognizing that I'm not going to be able to make as much money. I'm recognizing that this is affecting me, my bottom line, because I am an evil person. And this hurts me. It hurts my family. Obviously, it hurts the blacks too, or whatever race they're racist against. So that's the market's solution to something like this. Instead of a gun being pointed at somebody's head, instead of force, it's a natural marketplace where you struggle to stay in business, if you can stay in business at all, if you're racist. That's the way it should be, people. Freedom. Let's stop forcing and fighting each other. People, I got pulled over today for going 55 and a 35 on a road that I couldn't have killed anybody but myself on. In fact, I didn't realize I was speeding. It was that lame. I was ticked. The cop pulled me over and gives me a ticket $207 later. And all I could think of was, do you go to bed and sleep at night about how much you're making the world safer? I wasn't driving recklessly. There's nobody I could have hit. It's not even a deer. When I control you and tell you what to do with yourself, do you think that helps you? Do you think that helps you and I unite? See, this is where we are losing each other in our country. This is why we have so many different groups. We have the potheads, we have the black people, we have the Republicans, we have the Democrats, we have the gun toters, we have the peace activists, we have the tree huggers. We need to unite behind freedom and individual opportunities for people to pursue their own freedom, whether it's something we agree with or not, as long as you are not forcing your ideas on me. We should be able to unite on that freedom. Because if you're willing to take away my freedom, I'm going to be willing to take away yours. And this is what's happening, is we have our group forcing our way on someone else. And this is the opposite of what our country was founded on. Our country was founded as a republic, which means the 99% cannot take away the rights of the 1%. So people, let's start uniting behind these type of things, just basic morality. All right, finally, let's get to the last thing. He says that I believe in ending the minimum wage and that I support lesser pay for working poor. Before I answer this, when you are responding to somebody and you respond in a meme or you respond in these quick little witty one-liners, it really shows how little you actually research on things typically. I'm sorry, but that's just the reality of it. Most answers, like the stuff I'm saying on here, I can't say that and type it into a 5-word response. It actually requires thinking. It requires critical thinking. What are they going to say? How could they say it? How can I respond to this? Let's think about things, okay? I want you to think about the minimum wage. Sorry. The minimum wage is supposed to help the poor, right? What if I told you that the minimum wage doesn't help the poor, but it hurts the poor? Why is it that the number one people that support the minimum wage, people like Walmart and unions? Do unions want the people on the minimum wage to have higher wages? They're not in the unions. How does that help the unions? Let's think about this, guys. Unions try to get higher wages for their members, which is a good thing for their members. But if their members have such high wages that people can get paid minimum wage and you can hire 3 or 4 people on minimum wage to do the job of one high-paid union person, well, the union loses their power. So the union is constantly promoting a higher wage so that way they have as much power raising the wages for their members. So they're protecting their members. But in the process of doing that, they are hurting the poor that need to get paid. Walmart. Why does Walmart support the higher minimum wage? Well, Walmart is the biggest company and biggest industry biggest organization and corporation that does what they do. So the more regulations, the more expensive, the harder it is to get into the industry, the more of a monopoly they have on everyone that wants to try to join or compete against them. The higher the minimum wage, the more expensive it is for you to join and try to compete against Walmart. They can afford it. It doesn't affect them. They're already set in stone. You're just starting up. So now it hurts you trying to get into the marketplace. Of course Walmart wants a higher minimum wage. It helps protect their monopoly or their monopoly from competition. It's not a complete monopoly, but it's very similar to one. It's horrible. Let's look at the minimum wage from a racist perspective. And I do believe, sadly, that the minimum wage is a racist law. there are a higher percentage of minorities in government housing having to go to government horrible public schools. So these kids grow up in horrible conditions. Okay, I've worked in government housing. I've worked years and years in government housing. I can say this. I've never lived there. I don't want to live there. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. This is what happens in most government housing, if not all. You are born, if you're a little kid, into government housing, or you come from a horrible family and you end up in government housing. So you have a disadvantage right from the start. You are then in government housing where you are surrounded by horrible people. You're surrounded by the druggies of the world, the alcoholics of the world, the broken families, the yelling, the screaming, the losers, the lazy people. That is what is in government housing. And that's what you grow up in. You are surrounded by horrible examples. You then go to a horrible public school. And usually the public schools in these areas are the worst of the worst, which public schools are horrible in general. These kids trying to grow up, they don't like the school, they hate the system, they want to get out. They then try to get out, they drop out of school, they want to get a job. An employer is forced by government to discriminate against anyone who is not worth whatever the minimum wage is set at. Let's say I'm an employer and I see you and you're coming to me and you're like, dude, I struggle to read well. I don't know basic math, or I'm not that good at basic math, which happens when people graduate high school nowadays. But this is you and you dropped out and you're trying to do better for yourself. You're sick of the system. You want to learn. As an employer, I can't hire you unless you're worth $8 an hour, whatever the minimum wage is set at. And right now, you might not be worth more than $4 an hour. Maybe it's $5 an hour. So I have to tell you, nope, dude, I can't hire you. I have to hire somebody that's worth more than you. And that's what an employer does. An employer's not going to lose money when he hires somebody. He's going to hire someone that makes him money, that's going to profit him. It discriminates against these guys. And these guys, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. You are stuck in this system. You grow up in the public school. You grow up in public housing. It's horrible. Your pride is taken from you. You're brought up in a situation where your pride is destroyed. And then the public sector says, nope, we're not going to allow people to hire you unless you're worth such and such a number. And the public or the private sector cannot hire you and actually help fix you and help teach you to read and help teach you to become a good employee and help you move up through the ranks. Because the government knows best and they need to set the minimum wage. It's horrible. It's sad. And that's what's happening. And we're saying, oh, we need a higher minimum wage. No. Now, for all of you that are saying, well, we got to have this wage because otherwise business owners are going to take advantage of people. That is only possible through government regulation and control. Right now, we have very little competition because government regulates and controls and forces these businesses to be practically identical. When you have all of these forces, the biggest man wins. Whoever can handle the regulations the best, he wins. Everybody else loses. And this means the employer can pay his employees whatever you want because you struggle to find other jobs. But if you actually have competition in a free market where you don't have government regulating everyone to be identical, where people can pay you less or pay you more, you have the opportunity to go to different businesses and say, peace out, my previous employer. You're paying me $4 an hour. I can get $7 an hour here. This is the way things should be. This is the beauty of the marketplace. This is the beauty of these things. John D. Rockefeller, he was the first person to pay someone $1 million salary. And this is when $1 million was a mother load of money, just an insane amount of money. Do you think he paid that man $1 million because he wanted to pad the guy's pockets? No. John D. Rockefeller paid that man $1 million salary because he didn't want to compete against the man. He said the man was incredibly smart. He helped John D. Rockefeller a ton. He was worth paying $1 million every year because if he didn't pay him $1 million a year, that man could make more than that. Or he would be willing to risk leaving John D. Rockefeller and starting his own business and make more than that. John D. Rockefeller couldn't have been wiser or smarter on the topic because the man ended up leaving John D. Rockefeller and became one of his strongest and stiffest competitions, taking away the highest percentage of market share from John D. Rockefeller. This man got paid what he deserved because there was a free market and a marketplace that allowed him to do what he wanted with his own life and make his own decisions. When you're going to attack people, and you have these type of random attacks that this guy just threw at me, think about them. Think about your responses. If this guy spent a little bit of time educating himself on why people like myself believe the things I believe, he wouldn't have made those comments because he knows they're so easily debunked. But of course he makes those comments because they're great talking points, and all he does is listen to one side of a story. All he does is listen to anti this, anti that, pro-Democrat, 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 man. Woohoo, we're so good. He's brainwashed. We went back and forth replying, and I just obliterated the guy. I ended up stopping the responses because there's no point. He's not learning. He's just too stubborn. He's not trying to get any better. He's not trying to learn. But he got obliterated in the debate. And I don't want you guys to be that way. Whether you agree with me or not, educate yourself, learn. Let's have a dialogue. Let's have a conversation. Let's actually work together on trying to fix problems in our country. Let's start uniting behind freedom instead of uniting behind what freedom can we take. If you guys like these videos that I'm sharing, if you guys like the idea of someone coming at these ideas from a different perspective, not from the right or not from the left, subscribe. I'm going to be posting these videos at least 2 a week. My goal is to hit 3 or 4 every single week, but guaranteed 2 a week. And I'm going to talk about all kinds of different perspectives. I'm going to talk about everything I can possibly think of, from Democrats to Republicans, to independents, libertarians, socialists, communists, you name it. I'm going to be honest. When I screw up, I'm going to say so. When I am wrong, I want you guys to point it out. When I am factually wrong, I want you guys to point it out. Let's actually build a community and ideas, a group of people that actually believe in uniting and supporting freedom and helping each other. Because the vast majority of us, even on the sides that disagree with us the most, the vast majority of us want what's best for our country. Let's start uniting, guys. That's what this channel is all about. If you like this video, hit like. Please subscribe. There's going to be more coming. I've got quite a few to look at. Check them all out, guys. I've already talked about Hillary Clinton's speech. I've already talked about different topics that I consider important. Let's keep getting the word out. Let's unite, guys. Let's work together as Americans. Thank you very much. This is Brandon Renas signing out.